So yes, thank you. Doug has just started recording it. We had a few people who couldn't make it who asked if they could receive a copy of that. My name is Allison Vogren. I am the volunteer program manager for the Baltimore County Volunteer Center. And before we get into today's presentation, I wanted to just give an intro to the Volunteer Center for those of you who may not be aware of us. We launched in October 2023, and basically what we are is a clearinghouse to connect volunteers in the community with organizations such as yourselves. So one of our feature areas we have is a online volunteer portal called Get Connected. Most of you are actually have profiles already created on it. So for those who aren't familiar with it, it is similar to Volunteer Match, only we're on a more local level in the greater Baltimore region. And organizations can set up a free profile, and the link is actually right there on the screen for those who are interested. It's very easy to set up a profile for as long as you're a registered nonprofit organization or government agency. So just to give you an idea, we have currently 84 agencies who are registered on the portal. And our volunteer center last year had received 107 phone calls or email inquiries of people looking to volunteer. So we connected them with agencies such as yours. And then just from the portal alone, 547 people went on the portal and directly connected with an opportunity. So in addition to our online portal, we are also offering a volunteer fair or trying to do annual volunteer fairs. So we kicked off last year in the fall here in Towson with many of you participated in that, and we have another upcoming volunteer fair. So Ethel, if we can just go to the next slide for that. We have an upcoming volunteer fair on March 22nd, and a number of you will be participating in that as well. So we're out advertising that in the community. It's going to be in the Randallstown community. So we're hoping to draw from audiences of all ages. And then also as part of the Volunteer Center, we've collaborated with several agencies to have days of service. This helps us get further insight into what your agencies are doing and helps us promote what you are doing. So last April, we assembled food boxes with Happy Helpers for the Homeless. In September, we worked with Yield Camp and Baltimore County Parks and Rec to do a cleanup day. This past January, we did 2 MLK Day projects, one with Habitat for Humanity Restore, where we did organizing and painting, and then we went to St. Vincent de Paul's Hannah More Shelter to work on crafts and games with the kids. And then this April, we were partnering with Deaf Shalom Zone for a spring cleaning activity. So that's something that we're going to be start advertising soon as well for April 12th. And we're always looking for ongoing opportunities to get out in the community. So if your agency wants us to come in and coordinate a group to come in, we would love to do so. As I mentioned, this helps us get an idea of what you do so that when people call our office looking for something, we have a better insight into it. And lastly, we are offering today's Lunch and Learns as part of an ongoing session that we're trying to do, a quarterly series that we're planning to do. So we feel that being able to provide you with opportunities, whether virtually or we hope to do also in person, to provide you with continued opportunities for learning, networking, and collaboration. So mark your calendars because on Wednesday, May 7th, we will have our next session. It will be on engaging youth volunteers, specifically the 18 to 25-year-old range. And our presenter will be Ali Zul, who is certified volunteer administrator from the America Services Commission. So we will send the flyers out once that's finalized, but you can go ahead and save the date. Again, May 7th will be our next session. And with that, I hand it over to my colleague, Chanel, who is going to introduce today's speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn session. My name is Chanel Abdul Mohamed. I am a volunteer coordinator here at the Baltimore County Volunteer Center. I am honored to be one of your co-hosts. We're excited to have you here for what promises to be an insightful, engaging discussion. Before we begin, I'd like to share a few housekeeping items to ensure we have a smooth and interactive experience. If you have any audio or visual concerns, please direct message to the host in the chat. The chat is located in the right-hand corner of your screen. We will be actively monitoring throughout the session. We also encourage all participants to turn on their cameras if possible. I love to see everyone's beautiful faces, handsome as well. Don't want to leave anybody out. Um, if possible, seeing each other faces help create a more connected and engaging space, just if we are sitting together in the same room. This interactive session, we welcome your participation. Feel free to share your thoughts, insights, questions in the chat throughout the discussion. When the speaker is presenting, we ask that you remain on mute to minimize background noise. If you have a question, please raise your hand, do the raise your hand feature that's in the right-hand corner as well. Um, you will be called on at the appropriate time. You can also submit questions in the chat and we will do our best to address them. At the conclusion of today's session, we kindly ask that you take a moment to complete a short survey. Your feedback is invaluable with helping us improve our continuing bringing meaningful discussion into the space. Now,
Chanel, I'm sorry, can I interrupt too? I forgot to mention, for anybody who needs closed caption in the lower left-hand corner, I meant to say that earlier, there is a closed caption button, so feel free to use that. Thank you.
okay. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's Lunch and Learn speaker, Bruce Morgenstein. Bruce has dedicated his career and retirement to make a difference after 37 years as an engineer and the business leader. I'm going to say this acronym, ARINC. He is retired in 2013 and redirected his focus to community service. His impact spans in emergency response coordination, IT development, food distribution, logistics, volunteer mobilization, supporting countless nonprofit organizations. Notably, he was with the Anne Arundel County Volunteer Center for 6 years until it closed in 2019. Even in retirement, Bruce remains deeply committed, generously volunteering over 30 hours a week. Give that a hand of applause to give back to the community. His dedication and his testament to power of service and impact one person can make. Today, he will be sharing his expertise on volunteer recruitment, engagement, retention, and offering valuable insight into how organizations can attract, inspire, retain dedicated volunteers. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Bruce Morgenstein.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Chanel. Thanks for inviting me today. And I really want to thank you very much for using a picture that was about 10 years ago so that we wouldn't scare anybody away when you put out the poster. Anyway, so good afternoon, Baltimore County. It's really nice to be here. I thought I'd give a little bit of a background, maybe a little bit different than Chanel said, to give you an idea of what my volunteer journey has been. Interestingly, I didn't do any volunteering during my youth or during my career. It wasn't part of the family thing, and I just got involved in it when I retired. So as Chanel mentioned, I retired in 2013. I had taken a course with Leadership Anne Arundel and got to see a lot about what the needs are in the community. And I was getting at a point in my career where I wanted to do something totally different. So I retired in 2013. In Leadership Anne Arundel, I met, I see there's a lot of school people on the call today. I met somebody from Annapolis High School who was looking for volunteers. And on the Monday after the Friday that I retired, I was knocking on his door and said, I want to help Annapolis High School. Now, silly him, he didn't keep me fully busy. So I started searching for volunteer opportunities and came across the Anne Arundel County Volunteer Center. So I'm really excited that Baltimore County has resurrected a volunteer center to support you, because I think it's just an amazing concept and so helpful to community nonprofits. But anyway, so I reached out to them and they said, well, how about if you volunteer with us? You could be a skilled volunteer coordinator. And I said, oh, that's a great idea. And so I enjoyed doing that for a few years and then joined the board and then became the president of the board. One of the nice things is we interacted with about 400 different nonprofits in Anne Arundel County, and I got to really get a good feeling for what the opportunities were out, not just for everybody else, but also for me, and started volunteering with a number of different organizations. One of them was Anne Arundel County and City of Annapolis Community Emergency Response Team. I joined that organization and then ended up being on the board, and now I'm the president. You're starting to see a pattern. Anyway, the important thing is I want to let you know that I run a nonprofit. I run a nonprofit of emergency responders. We are all volunteers. So I do understand the challenges of volunteer recruitment. I do understand the challenges of volunteer retention and engagement because I deal with them every single day. I'm also a volunteer still with the schools. I saw some people with RSVP. I did that for a short time as well. I'm still a Medicare counselor with the Department of Aging, and I help several other nonprofits. So that's just to give you a little bit of a background that, I effectively tell people that I work full time, I just don't get paid. And it's an absolutely great retirement. So, what I'm going to try to do today is first of all, recognize for everybody here, and everybody's going to nod their head up and down. It's really hard to recruit volunteers in today's climate. It's really hard to engage and to retain them. Some of it is COVID changed people, and I don't know precisely why, but a lot of people have withdrawn. More and more people retired, and you would think we would have a bigger volunteer force, but we don't. People are, I don't know what they're doing, but they're not doing as much helping others. So I've certainly seen that trend. I've talked with lots of nonprofits, and everyone seems to agree. So we're gonna talk about maybe some strategies for recruitment and engagement, and get a better understanding of retention. And of course, I'd love for this to be interactive because maybe I'll learn something too. I need as many ideas as I can to, as I move forward as well. So we did put out a couple of polls. I thought they were a good idea just to get an idea of how you all were thinking. So if you can put the first poll up, please. And, it's talking about challenges related to recruitment. And the fact is that I was interested when I asked about whether you have a budget and what you're doing with staff, because I wanted everybody to at least recognize them within themselves that unless you have that kind of organization where people are clamoring to volunteer with you, there's a real effort involved in trying to get volunteers. So you need to, when you're doing your budgeting, when you're doing your staffing, when you're assigning people, because we all have limited staff, everybody has limited staff, you really need to say, okay, what can we afford to do? What can we, and when I say afford, it's not dollars necessarily, it's time. What can we afford to do in terms of dedicating time to volunteering? And then some of us have some challenges, and challenges might be background checks. Not a large number of you found that to be a challenge. I know I have to do it. I have to have background checks on all my folks because we all deal with vulnerable populations. When there's an emergency or a disaster, the most vulnerable are the ones that we need to spend the most attention to. Those are a little bit older, those with disabilities, young children, et cetera. And certainly, for example, with the school system, you have to be concerned with that. But, there's a lot of easy solutions if you have to do volunteer background checks. There are great companies out there that will do inexpensive volunteer checks. I'm not promoting a particular one, but Sterling Volunteers is a nationwide corporation that handles very efficient, relatively inexpensive background checks to support nonprofits and other organizations across the country. And we use that within Anne Arundel County. There's a cost, of course. It's a corporation that makes money. There is a cost, but one of the recommendations I have is that you look to share that cost with your volunteers. Volunteers, I know it's hard with some volunteers because they think, well, they're volunteering their time. They shouldn't have to volunteer their money, but for the small cost that's involved, it certainly would make it a reasonable option for you is to do that sharing. You may need skilled volunteers. I loved engaging with skilled volunteers. You've got a lot of people, particularly retirees, who have done some incredible things in their life. They have, it might be IT skills, it might be legal skills, it might be accounting skills. There are plenty of those types of people that have time now and would like to use what they learned in their careers to support nonprofits. So that's one of the things I enjoyed as a skilled volunteer coordinator with Anne Arundel County was to engage with those folks and try and find something for them that would be meaningful. I'll be honest with you. I enjoy sorting food. I enjoy making sandwiches. I enjoy going out and raking mulch or putting mulch down in parks. I really do. It's fun, and I don't have to think as hard. But I get tremendous enjoyment as a retired engineer going in and maybe helping create a financial model for a nonprofit or help them with some IT work or help them with something else that specifically requires skills that would be very costly if they had to pay for them. So you need to, in your recruitment, don't be shy asking for people to use skills that they learned. I'm not shy at all. You'll find that out. I'll go up to anybody and say, hey, I've got this great nonprofit. I need help. Please help me. I do it at pretty much any type of gathering I ever go to. I have a full, my pocket always has business cards in it, and I am always talking and engaging with whomever I can and finding out what it is that they could possibly contribute. So be that, active advertiser. We can't afford to put an ad in a newspaper. That's too expensive. So we have to be that advertising force. Another challenge that some of the nonprofits face is training. I always thought about it. I thought about the American Red Cross. It's another emergency response organization. And I looked and I said, oh my God, they've got 18 hours of training before you're able to really respond and do something. And then, of course, I had to look at myself, and I've got about 20 hours of training to provide some basic skills before I allow my volunteers to go out. So you have to look and see, do you have to have that much training in order to deploy or use your volunteers? What can you do to make it incremental? What can you do to make it interesting and exciting? Can you make it interactive as opposed to having somebody watch videos by themselves? What can you do to enhance that experience for them? Make that as enjoyable as the volunteering that they're coming to your organization to do. So you really need to focus on what is the absolute minimum. We all have to do some level of training, I'm sure, but what is the absolute minimum that you can get away with before the person can feel productive? And then another challenge is engagement consistency. I know that's what we really want. We want somebody who's going to show up possibly every week, possibly the same time every week. I know there's a great organization, maybe in Baltimore County as well, called STARE, which is Start the Adventure in Reading. What a great thing. These volunteers go out and they teach second graders who are struggling how to read, because if you can't read by the time that you finish second grade, you're going to be challenged in future years. But the problem is that they need you to arrive every week at the same time on the same day. And if you don't arrive, you're disappointing a kid. And oh my God, I'm not going to disappoint a kid. So, I'm not able to do that. So I need you to think about your organization and what your consistency requirements are and wonder if you can possibly be more flexible. STARE can't be. I understand that one. But look at that, and see what you can do, because I am retired. I know I work full time, but I am retired, but I want my flexibility. My schedule is what I want it to be. I will do everything I can to support a nonprofit, but if there's something that my wife says that she wants me to do, I do have that boss also. I need to figure out how to get that done and still do all the fun volunteering that I have. So, that was the poll, but I also want to talk in terms of recruiting about where do you find these volunteers? Well, God bless, you've got a volunteer center now. I think it's the most amazing concept. Unfortunately, it's gone in Anne Arundel County. We had a perfect storm of no funding, and we had to close it down because, hard to believe it, but you actually have to pay people to run a volunteer center. It can't be done with just volunteers. You need the kind of dedicated people that you have in Baltimore County, and support them, so that they can provide that service to you. And whether it's government funding or other grant funding or donations or whatever, they really do need to be funded. So the Volunteer Center is absolutely a great concept, and please take advantage of it, because as they continue to grow, they will be able to get large numbers of volunteers that are looking for things to do. By the time we closed with Anne Arundel County, we had over 5,000 volunteers in our database. And it was a great opportunity to look through that database anytime there was an opportunity that our partner nonprofits needed, to be able to find people, reach out to a group and say, here's a great nonprofit, can you help them? So good news for Baltimore County, you have a volunteer center. Another thing is, you might reach out to your local community college. Now, I'm not familiar with Baltimore County's community college. I'm familiar with Anne Arundel County, but Anne Arundel County has a service learning group. And while their focus is on certainly on the students that they have, trying to get them a learning experience, um, our community college, and I'm sure yours is the same, has a lot of adults and a lot of seniors that take courses. And those seniors are only taking those courses part-time. They may be retired, and they may have a significant amount of time available to do volunteering, particularly volunteering in the specific interests they have and the reasons that they're going back to school. So I would definitely check them out to see, and even if they don't have a service learning center, maybe they have a way for you to advertise your volunteering needs to their student community. And by the way, as well, their faculty. So I would look at that. The next one's kind of challenging because most of us can't use young adults under the age of 18. But if you can, going into the public schools is just so amazing. Some of these kids have a heart of gold. They want to do things to help others, and they're looking for avenues to do it. So there are all kinds of clubs that are in the public schools, clubs like National Honor Society. I'm going to make assumptions for Baltimore County, but our Rotaries are very active. And so they have Rotaract clubs in the schools where they encourage volunteering and help create volunteer opportunities for the kids. There are key clubs, um, that also have volunteering as part of what they try to do. Um, and um, and then the other important thing is Baltimore County, actually all the schools in Maryland, have a volunteering requirement. In Baltimore County, it's 75 hours. So the schools try to be creative, getting them in school things that they can do that are considered volunteering. But if you can accept young people under the age of 18, you're going to find a lot of energy and by the way, a lot of love. These are great kids. The ones that want to volunteer are great kids. So think about that. Another thing that we don't always think about is partner organizations. And you say, why would a partner organization want to loan me their volunteers? Well, I'm going to give you an example of how I do that. I partner with American Red Cross. American Red Cross has this great program called Sound the Alarm. If you're familiar with it, what they do is they go into low-income communities and they install free smoke alarms in people's homes. And I run an emergency response organization. And my goal is to engage with other nonprofits that are similar to my own, because the synergies that you get when you do that are just extraordinary. So I'm going to be supplying, in fact, the last time I did Sound Alarm with the Red Cross, we had as many AAA CERT volunteers there as the American Red Cross did. We all had a good time. We all got to know each other. And we were a force multiplier effectively for the American Red Cross to accomplish the goal that they wanted to do. So I encourage you to look for other nonprofits that are similar to you, or complementary to you, and say, what can we do together that will make us more effective? It's essentially in maybe sharing volunteers. So another idea. Also, for my emergency response organization, I'm constantly looking, just like all of you are. So I go to lots of county events. Wherever I can get myself invited. Did you hear I said that? I don't wait for the invitation. I go out and I talk to the county or the city, in my case, because I've got Annapolis. I go out and I talk to various organizations that create events or festivals, and I say, can I please come? Of course, for free, because I'm not going to pay for a booth. I don't have any money. But I go ahead and I tell them the value of my organization, and of course how appreciative I'll be, and maybe I'll even help volunteer helping them set up a little bit at their event or something equivalent. But I love to go to festivals. I love to talk to people. Just pulling them in and telling them how incredible you are and what your mission is and what you try to accomplish, and wouldn't you like to sign up as a volunteer? And get them down on a list. And by the way, if you do something like that, immediately, like the next day or so, send them a message that said, thank you for stopping at my booth. I'm so excited. Would you like to sign up for something, or would you like to, or we're going to send you a newsletter every quarter or month or whatever. I'm a little bit ahead of myself. That's the engagement part, but very important for recruiting. I mean, there is advertising, and I'm not talking about paying for advertising. I told you I don't have any money. I'm talking about finding newsletters, online newsletters that are sent out that will help promote your organization. I'm fortunate in Anne Arundel County. There's a couple of county ones, because I support the county directly, that will advertise some of the opportunities that I'm looking for. So I don't know what it is in Baltimore County, but I bet you can find some kind of magazine, newsletter, or something that might be willing to support you. And I'm sure there's more than this, but I'll throw out, of course, the last one, and that's word of mouth. Is to absolutely encourage every one of your volunteers to talk to their friends, their family, their neighbors. Also encourage them to talk to people they don't like. It doesn't really matter. What you need are volunteers, but to go ahead and promote what it is that you all do. So I'm going to take a brief pause here, just in case there are any questions, or if somebody wants to chime in, particularly talking about other recruitment techniques that they might have.
So Bruce, I know in the chat, Keswick, I'm sorry, there's a lot of going through here. Let me go through. It was Rosalind. I don't know if Rosalind, if you want to come off mute, or just if you want me to read it, but it looks like you do a lot of collaborating with other organizations, especially with younger people.
I know Miss Rosalind from the MDHS. She is
Yeah.
great at promoting.
Oh, thank
Miss
you.
Rosalind.
Hi. Yeah, we like I said, in the chat, built partnership with other organizations. And so those students help support like our recreation department for our residents. They also work in like the business finance office and places like that as far as, and gaining work experience and also, some working in a department that may help them toward their goals, like going to college or if they're in college, because we also partner with like Loyola. Johns Hopkins is pretty close to us, so we get plenty of college age students to volunteer here. So that age range, we don't have a problem with. Ours is more of older adults because post pandemic they still, COVID is still here, so a lot of older adults don't want to come out to, in a facility to volunteer. But we do partner with the Baltimore City Department of of Aging, and they have a program called the Senior Companion Program. So we do have 3 seniors that come here just to visit with the other seniors here. So, but when we were talking about, he was talking about the age range, the the um, the one that's coming up in May, because we're too trying to attract people in a different age range. So, but the partnerships have been great for having dedicated and a steady uh, number of interns each year to work in different departments.
That's
Thank you.
great, Rosalind. I want to respond a little bit to that because you brought up something very important. You know, this I was talking about the selfish. We need volunteers to to do our mission, but the selfless part is giving young people opportunities
Yeah.
and something to write on that resume. Another volunteer gig I do is I support my college in recruiting people, and I talk to young people about that. And showing volunteering on their resume is very powerful. It says that you're a good person, that you care about others. So I think your point was wonderful in that we need to be good to these kids as well and give them these opportunities so that they can grow. And oh, by the way, they can help us also. So that was very good. Your point also about older folks. I hate using the word older because, dear God, I am now. But is absolutely
Season
true.
crew. That's the word.
Seasoned. Oh
Season.
my, yeah, but I am so seasoned it's getting scary. Uh, the um, the thing is that you're right. There are some that just don't want to socialize, and I'm going to tell you that's so critical. And I don't know how we get through to these seniors to let them know that that's how they're going to live longer and live healthier is if they get out and they do stuff and they socialize. One of my oldest volunteers is 84. And she doesn't do a lot, but she does something important. She's a volunteer victim for a disaster simulation that I do. And she can act really well as to somebody that really needs help, during an emergency. But anyway, so really good input. Thank you very much, Rosalind.
Yeah,
Do
thanks,
we have
Bruce.
anything else, Chanel?
Yeah, I was gonna say Allison from Maryland Zoo. I don't know if you feel like talking about and elaborating, but she said social media has been very helpful for them. And I'm guessing, if you're an organization that has full access to social media, with us being a government agency, the Volunteer Center doesn't have its own platform. We go through the channels, but I don't know, Allison, if you want to expand on that, what social media platforms you do or what
Yeah,
you use.
it's among many of the things that we use here. So I am the director of volunteer programs at the Maryland Zoo. So we're still a nonprofit, but we're kind of a bigger entity where a lot of the times the recruiting is just done on its own, where people know what we do and they usually have the wrong idea. They think that they can, walk a rhino or something, but they want to help because they have that connection to animals. They have that very strong connection, and they've lived with the zoo all the way. But the best ways that we recruit, because we recruit for various things. So we do have our core program, which are the volunteers you'll see on grounds that are orientated and trained. But we also have so many events throughout the year that we rely on community volunteers. So we utilize many techniques. Social media, yes, we have a marketing department. So we are able to get onto Facebook, we're able to get onto Instagram. We can get that out, but we also utilize our corporate members and our membership list with any kind of newsletters we send out to them. We also, I'll use, the services you guys provide, as well as whatever it's called now, if it's idealist or volunteer match combo thing. And then word of mouth is pretty much the biggest one, but especially for our events, I go to the schools. So I'm in Baltimore City, and whether you're in Baltimore County or anywhere, there are a lot of universities in this area, and they're all looking for service, whether they are clubs or they are certain classes. So we have a couple opportunities here that we need specific skill sets. So we, hyper focus onto those programs and just go to those staff members who have those programs that we can possibly pull from. But the sports, the Greek, they all need to do service. So bringing them in to do service, community service projects are always. We also go out into the companies for service projects and to help with the events. So we really try to use a whole bunch of different things, but to probably skip ahead a little bit, just getting them in the door is not enough. You need to make the actual experience worthwhile, and that's the way you're going to grab them. So we do everything we can. We provide sometimes snacks. We lay on the appreciation, and that's how we're able to build a database that we can go back to. So we use Logistics, which is a web-based scheduling program, and once a group or a volunteer does anything with us, they're in our database, and so we can contact them over and over again.
Thank you, Allison.
And
First of all, I
I'm
love the
sorry,
Maryland
Bruce.
Zoo.
To piggyback
Pardon?
off of what Allison said,
Okay.
there's a lot of groups out here right now are looking for opportunities. They do reach out to the volunteer center, and we have like an interest form. So anybody later on who are looking for groups, I will drop my email and you can email me. We would definitely like to connect with you guys because we want to connect them to you. Sorry, Bruce. I had to plug.
Oh, no. That's great. So first, I was starting to say, Allison, I love the Maryland Zoo. I was actually there somewhat recently and did talk to some of your volunteers. So there we are. You did bring up a couple of really good things. I guess I didn't bring up social media because I'm social media stupid. I barely use it, and I'm trying to recruit members for my own organization that are younger that would be willing to help with social media in order to promote what we do. So yes, that's really a great avenue. And you mentioned companies, and that's a big deal. It sort of depends on what your needs are, of course. And with companies, sometimes what they're going to be looking for is an event that they support. I remember when I was with Anne Arundel County Volunteer Center, and we would try to clean up a park. We could get companies to do that. We could get companies to come for a morning or a day or something like that and provide a bunch of volunteers. Comcast was a good example with their Comcast Cares program. A little harder to get a company to help you on a routine basis, but there are some companies that will. Another thing to consider is that there are companies out there that reward their volunteers reward their employees for volunteering it may be by giving employees time off to do volunteering. Some of them will provide grants, not to the employees, but to the nonprofit for people who volunteer. But they actually encourage, because it looks good for the company. I mean, everything is selfish, right? It looks good for the company, so they encourage people to volunteer. So that would be something that would help as well. So that was another really good idea, Allison.
On in the chat. So I know Laura from our RSP office has a quarterly newsletter where she posts the volunteer opportunities and uses the Department of Aging's digest paper. Jamil from Yield Camp with the pop-up events we did in the fall, and we collaborated with Rec and Parks there too. I don't know if you have anything further you wanted to add to that, Jamil. Oh, he's on mute, I think. Oh, we can't hear him. You can't hear you, Jamil. We'll come back to you maybe if we get the volume working out.
I think
So
I just
Kathy,
fixed it if he wants to try again.
no,
No.
okay.
Yeah, Jamel, if you have multiple microphones, you might need to choose a different microphone.
Oh, there we go. We
Oh,
got
wait,
you
oh, you
now.
can
Hear me now?
Yeah. I don't know. That was out of nowhere.
Now I forgot what I was going to say. The pop-up events that Yield Camp does. So I was actually just talking about it. How we try to use that is one, we literally will pop up. So what Yield Camp does, we lean into environmental stewardship. So we'll pick a park or green space. We offer some service learning hours, but we lean more into the mental health aspect, as Bruce was talking about, getting out, moving, being in nature. All of those things are, shown to be healthy, but ironically, volunteering has the same mental health benefits as being out in nature. And so Yield Camp just tries to put those two things together. And we were just talking about, is there a way that maybe Yield Camp could partner with some of these organizations in like a mental health initiative? We'll show up and do a pop-up, which we literally, as Allison says, we have our little tent. We'll bring our all of our gear and supplies and find a park location, talk a little bit about the specifics of what we're doing. But what I have found is offering several benefits, giving something for the kids to do, leaning into the mental health aspect of it, sometimes giving folks something that they need, if it's the service learning hours, or some people are, they have to do community service. But those are good things for events that don't require a whole lot of special skill. And even when we do some environmental cleanup, we can kind of teach on the spot and only have people do, minimal things. So I don't know how that would work for indoors or some of these other organizations, but I was thinking about even at the zoo, they had a volunteer drive. I'm pretty sure there's some folks that would appreciate some help keeping the place nice and cute and tidy. But that also could expose some people to that particular location that haven't thought of it before. There's a bunch of places on the call I haven't been to. So, but that's what our pop-ups do. We literally just kind of pick a day when it seems right, reach out, offer something that people need. But we also catch a lot of stragglers just walking past. So,
And you never know what people will like, because I love shoveling and spreading mulch. I don't know why. I just, I'll climb up on the mountain that somebody dumped in there, and I'll just do that for hour after hour, because it kind of clears my mind and makes me feel good for the day. So, don't second guess. Don't assume what people will want to do and not want to do. Just go out and ask. So great points. Appreciate it. Okay. Allison, I'm going to suggest that we move on to the second part. We can always, all this kind of flows together anyway. So we can always continue the discussion.
Sure. And thank you to those who did contribute in the chat. So if you haven't looked through, because we've got a lot of conversation going on with that. So thank you.
Okay. So I really felt good about this particular poll, because it essentially says to me, you're all doing the right things. But I still want to go over some of these a little bit. I'm not going to, the thank yous, I guess I'll do it in the order that's shown here. The thank yous, you all know that it's just so important to make people feel good about what they've accomplished and what they've done. And you have to say it frequently. And I know there's a lot of organizations, they'll put on a fancy lunch or dinner or something like that, which costs a fair amount of money, or they'll give out different types of awards. I'm going to tell you that in my experience, most people just want that very sincere thank you and appreciation, maybe a certificate, which doesn't cost a whole lot of things, a lot of money. That's what they're really there for. I used to tell people, I love volunteering because when I had a good day, I got a good hug. I mean, it's those little things that are really kind of important. The second one on there is sharing the organization's mission, and a very large percentage of you do that. I'm going to tell you that is essential. One of the great organizations in Baltimore County, in fact, it was on the front cover of this presentation, is Helping Hands for the Homeless. And what they do is the biggest part is they make sandwiches. But if you just recruit me in there and say, well, I need you to make 150 sandwiches, and there's the bread, and there's the meat, and there's the mayonnaise. Yeah, okay, I'm going to do that. But if you tell me how I'm going to help individuals have a great lunch today, people who are struggling, that don't have the resources, can't buy food because food is so expensive, that's going to matter to me tremendously. And I'm going to feel really good, and I'm going to actually work harder for you. And I'm going to go home and say, I want to do that again. So I think you all know that, but I think it's really important. Identifying the skills that your volunteers have and then using them effectively. That's really important too. And what we need to be careful about is not dumbing down the work that needs to be done. Finding out what the skill level is of the person and letting them creatively help you get a job accomplished. Yes, it really does have to get done your way. I understand that. We all have processes. We may even have restrictions. And you want that final product to be the quality that you're looking for, but give people a chance. Give them a chance to use those natural skills that they have. And guess what? They might show you a better way to do things. You might learn from your volunteers and be able to become a more effective and efficient organization. Let's see. Oh, finding out what the goals your volunteers have. That's really important too. I just connected with another nonprofit. Yeah, I can't believe it was yet one more nonprofit. But anyway, I just connected with them, and we had this really good conversation because they have lots of volunteer opportunities, but there's really only one that I wanted to do. It was a homeless shelter, and my experience and my interest was workforce development, helping folks trying to get back to the workforce with resumes, interviewing, and those types of things. And they listened to what I had to say. And in fact, they just reached out to me again and said, okay, we think we have the program that's right for you. Please, we'd like you to come and volunteer. So I think understanding what your volunteers want to do, what the goals are. And by the way, once I start volunteering, I'll probably help you with other stuff too, just because I find out about your organization and your needs. So I think that's an important aspect of that as well. Looking for opportunities that will interest your volunteers. It's the same kind of marketing that everybody else does. Is what can you offer as a volunteer opportunity to get somebody in? It's kind of like what I was saying before, to get somebody in to your organization, to see what you do and to find out what else they might want to do. All right. It's kind of like drawing them in. You want to find those types of things. And that opportunity might be an event. It might be to help you with with an event that you are promoting. Let me see. After that was offer opportunities for volunteers to interact with your clients. Oh, yeah. Oh, that is seriously a big deal. So I volunteer with the Anne Arundel County Food Bank. And one of the things I volunteer in lots of different ways. But one of the things I love to do was to put together the pallets of food that our pantries needed, but then go out and talk with the pantries. I love doing that. I'd help them load the cars, but I'd find out about their pantries and their clients and how they do things, and that made me feel good as a volunteer. So see what you can do to get your folks to interact with the clients that you're trying to serve. I think they will become better volunteers because of that. Let's see. Oh, make volunteering a social type of experience. There are limitations to that, of course, but I won't name the organization that I was volunteering with, but we were all having a great time doing whatever it is we were doing, and they changed the rules and they separated people out, and it was no longer an enjoyable experience. So, and guess what? A number of the volunteers stopped coming. So we have to get the job done. I run a nonprofit, people. I know this. We have to get the job done, but whatever you can do to encourage socialization, to encourage volunteers to get volunteers to interact with each other, and to make it fun while getting your job done, meeting your objectives, that's going to enhance the volunteering the experience and get people to want to come back. So that's very important too. And I see only a small number of you ensure that volunteers learn something. I'm a retired engineer. I learn all my life. I'm continuing to learn. It's important to me. That kind of goes back to understanding what the goals of your volunteers are. So whatever you can do to help meet those goals while meeting your own objectives is going to be really, really very important. So I mean, those are kind of the experiences I have, but I think what we want to do is the same thing we just did before, is everybody else get on the line and say, well, what do you all do that helps to continue to engage and retain folks?
We have a lot in the chat too, going on. I know there was mention of birthday cards that are going on, or that they send out. Let me see. I'm sorry. There's so many different things
So
going on in the
even
chat. That's
something
great.
simple, Allison, even something simple as a birthday card, just that engagement from you to them that says you're important, and they say, I haven't volunteered with them for a while. I should give them a call and see if they have a need. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
Annual volunteer appreciation concert. So a big gathering for National Volunteer Week, sending an extra thank you, doing social media posts, hosting volunteer gatherings, again, years of service milestones, celebrating those, giving out certificates and honoring them. I like this one from Kate. If you can elaborate a little bit more on this, if you're open to it, but their nightclub, getting special access to a nightclub.
Yeah, that's so Club 1111 is our nightclub that the league hosts for our individuals, and that is how a lot of our volunteers get into the building. And then they kind of learn more about the league, and we steal them to other programs. But their first really intro to the league has become Club 1111, and we have about 450 individuals that we serve come out every month. And so then we have about 45 volunteers every month show up for that, and they're mostly local universities, but they're wonderful. And we have, I would say, about 20%, or not 20, 20 people every month that are returning. So it's great to see some old faces, but it's always awesome to see all of those new faces.
Very nice to be able to offer that option. Thank you for sharing that.
I like this next one, Allison, with the soup and chili social. How can I get invited to that? But I do
Where's
like
that?
what she said. This was Allison. She said they do a soup and chili social at the end of January, and it's a big hit. We also bring back an annual workshop. I think that goes with both questions I asked about how do you promote great customer service in your volunteers, giving them a conference or some type of retreat to just build their skills as well.
Mm-hmm. And I know, for instance, Gilchrist, not to call Jane out if she wants to share, but you do a lot of in-service trainings, not only as a requirement, but a lot of your volunteers thrive on that and they enjoy, like Bruce was saying earlier, it's that continued learning.
They
Being
are
better
lifelong
informed.
learners. Yeah, they are. They love to learn. We also take a profile of them when they come on, and that tells us all of their special skills. So sometimes we utilize those volunteers to lead those trainings if they have particular expertise, or let's say they know how to play an instrument or they know how to sing. We might ask them to utilize that in addition to visiting patients.
Thank you for
So I
sharing.
want to follow up with what Jane was talking about, because I think that's really important. So I mentioned to you, I run an emergency response organization, and God bless, we don't have a lot of emergencies and disasters in our area. So how do you continue to engage? And that's one of my jobs running the organization. And I do something similar to what Jane was talking about, is I have monthly trainings. I bring in a speaker. Some of them are in person, which allows for more socialization. Some of them are via Zoom, which allows more participation. But I come up with an interesting speaker with an interesting topic, which would apply, of course, to many of you. And I give my members an opportunity to engage with my nonprofit on a monthly basis, even if we don't have any other, other opportunities. At the same time, I'm also looking, we do not just emergencies, but we do blue sky events, meaning it's a nice day out. We do blue sky events like parades and festivals and whatever, where our folks who are traffic trained help support. But again, it's the whole idea of there's always something for a volunteer to do if they want to, so that they remain engaged with the nonprofit. So good points, Jane.
And I know yesterday our team here went to Art with a Heart, and that was our first time for all of us being there. And just what you had said earlier, Bruce, about sharing the organization's mission and getting that buy-in to it. They started off with an intro video so that we knew what the organization does, who it serves, the many facets of it. And then they got into once we were done the video, they got into our task and they told us how what we were doing that day impacted the larger picture of what the organization was doing. So being able to connect the dots there with that too. And that's also important. And I think that even that ties back into not just the organization's mission, but understanding their goals and part of your goals too as an individual, like understanding how you're impacting and the role you're playing and what you want to get out of that volunteer service. Let me see here. We also have, Kathy was saying about group homes and day programs, engaging. I don't know, Kathy, that's from Deaf Shalom Zone, if you want to expand upon that for us.
Yes, so many individuals who have significant limitations, they live in a group home and their staff is always looking for something for them to do. A small part of what we do is we run a food pantry. Well, it used to be a small part. Now it's becoming a bigger and a bigger and a bigger part, with eggs being $5 a dozen. But we have a lot of deaf folks who have always been receiving assistance for their whole life, and they've never been in the position of being able to assist others. So we're putting them in as volunteers for the food program, but then we're partnering them with other disabled people who have significant limitations, not just deaf, but deaf plus a whole bunch of other problems. And they're able to, say, for example, take a whole big box of rolls and put them in Ziplocs of 4, something like that. But they need a person, they need a lot of support. And so I'm finding that a lot of my volunteers need more volunteers to guide them and help them and support them.
Mhm.
So yeah, it seems like it's just blossoming into this, I don't know, very, very large thing. Could be small if we had a few very skilled volunteers, but because we're working with volunteers who have limitations, I have 100 people in here on Friday. It's crazy.
Kathy, I'm sorry. Have you ever thought about like, because I know it's a lot of, when I worked at Hopkins, there was a lot of students that work with people with disabilities. That's their major.
Mhm.
Even as, because I was attending Cecil College as well. Have you ever thought of reaching out to them to create a program where they can, like train others and they'll be able to get their hours at the same time as working with you? And then when new people, as they move out, new people come in so they can help you and it be like an ongoing benefit.
Yeah, we do have a partnership with CCBC. They have a interpreting program, American Sign Language program. So we have those students coming to do their service learning.
Okay.
The revolving door makes it difficult to have that, one group is gone before the next group arrives.
Oh, okay.
So it makes it difficult to pass that training along. I feel like we're always starting from scratch.
That goes against what Bruce said. Sometimes you can't have volunteers to run, you know what I mean? Like the program. So you have to might bring somebody in who's dedicated to that.
Yeah.
I know, I understand where you're at with that though. I totally understand.
Thank you for sharing, Kathy. I know Carla from Community Assistance Network is talking about a task force. I don't know, Carla, if you're comfortable expanding upon that.
Of course. So what I did, well, at the pantry, we typically have the same revolving volunteers, so that we can train folks on a task and we don't have to do that every day, right? Because we're doing the same things every single day. And we need that support every single day. We've brought in a lot of highly skilled volunteers actually through the RSVP program. And what I have found has been helpful in retaining those individuals is making them feel like you're not, I don't mean just, but you're not just a volunteer. You're really part of the larger operation.
Mhm.
So before I make a decision about something I'm going to change in the pantry program, we'll come together and have this. We have them once every 3 months, but these volunteer task meetings, it's not for, your individual who just needed to complete 10 hours of community service. It's for those who are here working the program every day with us. And so before I make changes as a program director, let me hear from the people who are out on the floor working with our neighbors. Do we need to change a shopping sheet, or what process improvements are needed? And it's really been very helpful. It helps them to keep, engaged. It makes them feel like they belong to the program and that they have a stake, if you will, in the organization as a whole.
Carla, let me respond to that a little bit because you're 100% right. One of my gigs also is I'm a Medicare counselor for the Department of Aging. It's a pure volunteer role. There's 3 staff and 10 volunteers, and it requires a lot of skill. We're in training pretty much every month because Medicare is the most complicated insurance program that Congress could come up with. But anyway, sorry, that was just a comment. Anyway, but the point is that you're absolutely right. The fact that we're treated the same as staff is, in a sense, in terms of contributing ideas, issues, and process, et cetera, makes us feel valued. And because it makes us feel valued, we are focused on continuing and supporting the program. So another really good point. Thank you, Carla.
Let me see here. So Allison had mentioned the Image Center and partnering with them for their master program. I know that the Image Center still exists. I'm not sure about whether the master's program is still around though. Allison, I don't know if you can expand upon what that did look like when you had it.
Yeah, so this was before COVID. So clearly now almost 5 years ago. And it wasn't even my program, so I was kind of just a spectator. Other people in my department took care of that. But so this master's program worked with the Image Center, and they would bring in people with ranging disabilities from nonverbal on the spectrum to those just being in wheelchairs or having coordination issues. And they would shadow our volunteers for 6 weeks. And then we would offer that. And then the next semester it would be another cohort. And some of them actually even started helping us with events on their own. And we were going to look into possibly having some of them actually become long-term volunteers, but then COVID hit and that kind of just stuck a wrench in it. And we haven't been able to bring back that program. We called our volunteers zoo partners, who were specifically trained to work with those volunteers or for those that had the disabilities. But we just haven't been able to bring that back yet.
Thank you for sharing that. And Kayla from Meals on Wheels talks kind of a leadership council. So it might be something similar to the task force that Carla was mentioning. I don't know, Kayla, if you want to share a little bit more about that. And if
Sorry, I got a call real quick.
Oh, no, you're fine. Sorry. Okay. So she just said that they have matching up retired volunteers with skills and then having the volunteers sit on different committees with that. And Kayla, we can come back to that
council.
Oh, yes.
And they help us make the volunteer experience better. So they get to learn about different aspects that maybe they don't get to see if they're doing meal delivery. They'll help us out with different things like our event planning. We're looking at getting a new building pretty soon. So we do have a few volunteers helping us in our development department for that. We do have a lot of retired volunteers. So our big thing for them especially is they want to keep using their skills the best that they can. So we'll try and utilize them as we're able to. So if they had like experience in marketing or if they're in that community engagement side of things, maybe they'll help us with our events committee. We do have a lot of people that come from other nonprofit organizations and then want to come and join Meals on Wheels as their service post retirement. So being able to use them in those different ways have really helped us elevate our company, as well as help us make it a better experience for all of our volunteers. And for most of our volunteers, they hear about volunteering with us through word of mouth. So being sure that there is a great experience, even if they come in one time or if they come in 100 times, every time they have a good experience. That's our goal, so that they go out into the community. They tell their friends about what a great experience they had with Meals on Wheels and how they should join and other ways that they can get involved. So that's our big thing when it comes to volunteers, keeping them around and recruiting them.
So I want to follow up on something that Kayla was saying, and that is, well, she sort of said this, but you want to look at, you want to look creatively at how to use volunteers. It's not necessarily just to support your direct mission, but maybe even to support the administration of your mission. So I'll give you an example. My wife is a business developer for a large defense contractor. And one of the things she wants to do in retirement, everybody listen, she wants to help with grant writing. Oh my God, that's you talk about a skill that helps you. The larger, larger nonprofits might have an actual dedicated grant writer, but most of you, it's other duties as assigned. You have to do it, whether you're the executive director or the president of your particular nonprofit or senior member of it, you have to do that. But if you can get somebody who has those skills, because that was the skills that, those are the primary skills that they used, that's just a tremendous support for you. So you want to think out of the box. I know that phrase is used too often, but think out of the box about how you can utilize volunteers, maybe in a non-traditional way.
So I had another thought that I wanted to add to that as well. Just because we also get a lot of retired volunteers, we also have a lot of teenagers that will come and join us. So in the summer, we have a dedicated teen program, but many students need like hours still before the summer. And they will come, they'll pack meals with us, maybe they'll deliver, but they want to find other ways to engage. And especially as of right now, with everything going on, the advocacy part of our organization is a huge thing that we're having students go on and do, and making their voices heard so they get that experience, one within the civic side of everything, the advocacy side, and they're volunteering. They're getting all three in one. So it really gives them a full kind of view of how does a nonprofit organization work? How do these decisions from the very top affect their clients, and what can be done in the middle there to make sure that it's an easy process for both the people at the top and the people that are receiving the service.
So again, another good point, Caleb. The kids are great. They really are. They will think differently than you do, because they're not as encumbered with all of your experience. They will think new ideas, new ways. They will question. So I find kids are absolutely terrific. Another thing to consider, and this is again something from Anne Arundel Community College, but I would imagine it's equivalent at some of your other schools, is some of the schools are looking for projects to do. It might be an entrepreneurial type of career path, and they're looking for, well, what kind of a business problem can we solve? And they might be looking for a nonprofit to solve a business problem for. So you might want to engage with your local schools, and a number of you are already doing that, and see, is there any kind of program like that if you have a particular problem that you think that some outside group can help with.
Thank you. And I know we take a few more, Bruce, and then Jane from Gilcrest had mentioned the elevating volunteers to leadership roles, engaging them more and utilize their mentorship skills,
Yep.
and creating opportunities for them to share ideas and reflect on their service. And I know, having previously worked in Jane's role too, there were volunteers that just organically formed their own groups as well outside of that as a result. And going back to that social piece of it, they would, outside of Gilcrest, with the support of Gilcrest though, form these groups, and then they would carry on and just informally meet and talk about topics. And it was a way for them to just debrief, not talking about patient information, but just to debrief about the experience of working in hospice in general. So giving them that outlet. And Jane, I don't know if you have anything else there you wanted to tack on to that.
No, that's really it. I think it just reminds them of the mission, particularly in end of life. That's not something you can talk about with everyone all the time. So for them to have the ability to connect, it's meaningful to them, but to be able to share and hear from other people, particularly about a sensitive subject like that, I think is helpful.
Thank you. And then Kathy from Deaf Shalom Zone said that, they're focused on volunteers who know American Sign Language, but they are expanding the ways that they use those volunteers, or expanding, Kathy, for volunteers who maybe don't sign. I'm not sure with that.
Yeah, she left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for
Okay, so I just saw something pop up in the chat that says, any ideas on connecting with retirees and how to find these gems? Thank you for calling me a gem. I appreciate that. Anyway, but seriously, a way to do it is the 50+ communities. They often have a community center. If you can find a connection in there, they're looking to entertain their residents, and bringing in a nonprofit to talk about volunteer opportunities might be something that they'd be willing to entertain. So that's certainly a possibility. I mentioned the community colleges because you get a lot of retirees who are taking classes there. There may be ways to engage them, but you know what's really hard is most of us are just spread out. I live in my own home. How are you going to get to me? I don't know. It's much harder, but those are possible ways. Some of the other people on the call might have ways as well if you want to speak up.
I was going to say, Liz, our volunteer center falls under and while we serve the larger county, we also fall under the Department of Aging. So we can connect after the call, because we'd be more than happy to put a flyer in the digest paper, as Laura had mentioned earlier, that she uses to promote volunteer opportunities, and that's specifically going for that targeted audience. And we can help maybe try and connect with some of the senior centers as well, to see if there's promotions, at least whether a flyer on their bulletin boards, or if there is opportunity to have some kind of tabling event. And through our volunteer fairs that we're trying to host on an annual basis, we're trying to reach out to all audiences. And in the past, when we had in the fall, the majority, because we took a poll of attendees, the majority were retirees, so who attended as well.
And if you are doing a festival and you want retirees to stop by your booth, have some giveaways. Make them cheap, make them useful, but have some giveaways because they love to forage. And of course, I won't hand out a giveaway until they've heard my pitch. So I force them to listen to me. It's just the way I am.
And Kay had mentioned,
You and Allison both, Bruce.
yeah, we have to. It's an exchange.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
handing off a flyer as we're handing off also whatever they're trying to take from us. And Kay had mentioned AARP site. Can you openly, Kay, post on there, or is it a free portal you can post?
It used to be openly post now. I have no clue how I started my position about 3 years ago. When I initially started, I posted like, hey, we're looking for volunteers to volunteer in the daytime in Baltimore. And I have no clue how we're still up there. Somehow we're up there, but they have a link where you can like ask to be featured. But also volunteermatch.org we get a influx that and like social media. So like not just Facebook and Instagram, but also LinkedIn is a good one for people who are like working professionals looking to like support your organization.
Thank you.
No problem.
So I know we're kind of winding down, Bruce. I don't know if there are any final questions that anybody in the group, or any final thoughts anybody had, because we have a captive audience here, and we're all colleagues working together. And if anybody has any questions or questions or support they can offer to one another.
Well, I've got some final thoughts. So I want to thank everybody on the call. This is exactly what I was hoping it was going to be, not just me as a talking head, but an actual conversation among fellow nonprofits. I love the nonprofit world. I've been in it for about 12 years, and certainly a very engaging group that's here today. So anyway, Allison knows my contact information if you think there's anything I can do to help you. No, I don't have any volunteer time left, sorry. But anyway, I certainly wish everybody a lot of luck in your careers.
I just want to put it out there. If you guys want to connect with Bruce, he has a phone that he keeps everybody in. So Bruce knows people. Okay. He is really a good bowl of information and knowledge. Like if just a question that he can answer, He'll answer for you. I'm not trying to like be his manager or anything, but he really is.
Bruce,
Thank you, Chanel.
are you comfortable if we were to put your
Sure.
contact in the chat, and
Absolutely.
we're going to follow
I
up.
will tell you that my contacts are a little bit better in Anne Arundel County than Baltimore County. But if anybody sent me a message, I'd be happy to try and answer it for you.
Thank you. And I know one of the first things when I met Bruce was was asking him if we could clone him, because as an ideal volunteer who said on an okay year volunteers about 1,800 hours, very impressive. So if we could definitely clone Bruce, we will.
Yes, I tell everybody I have this disease with my arm. It just keeps going up like this. So what can I tell you?
And we thank everybody. I know I'm just going to put Bruce's email address in the chat here. I know Chanel has some closing thoughts, but so we thank Bruce for his time today. And then I also just wanted to thank our communications team, Diane, Doug, Shantae, and Ethel for helping us navigate and everybody getting in and monitoring the chat for us too. And I'll hand it over to you, Chanel.
Yes, we did put a survey in the chat. If you could do that survey for us, we appreciate it. I want to thank Bruce for helping me out once again. I met Bruce a few years back when I was working for Maryland Emergency Management Agency. He was a great. I kept his. We lost touch, but I kept his name, and this was great for my first time doing this WebEx. So I appreciate it. Also, I have to plug the Baltimore County Volunteer Center. If you're not already registered, please reach out to us if you would like to register on the portal. It's a great opportunity to recruit volunteers, and we appreciate everyone who came out today and our team here at Baltimore County as well.
So thank you. We hope you'll continue to participate in our series. So thank you all.
Vanessa, you have your hand up. Did you have a comment?
No.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. No, just a comment. The only thing is I work for the Department of Corrections, and our department is called the Alternative Sentencing Unit. So, and we have a community service portion of it or component of it. And what happens is that people who have been court ordered, they come through, really me, I'm the only case manager, to do community service hours. And then we send them to different organizations. So I was glad to hear a lot of them up here, and I did write the names of some, and also some of the people that's on have used our service as well. And also we have a van that sometimes if your organization is having a special event, the van seats 13 people. We have a crew chief. He comes out and he monitors them, and they stay that day, and then leave. So just wanted to put that out.
And Vanessa, if we follow up with, hold on, I'm hearing myself echo. When we follow up with a survey to everybody, do you mind if we include your information? So if anybody was interested in that, they could reach out to you about that, getting some possible volunteers?
That's fine, yeah.
Or if there's a general email you want us to include, we can do that.
It's up to you. Email probably would be better,
Okay.
but it's up to you. You can call as well.
Okay, we'll follow up in an email with everybody with that information. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Everyone have a great day.
No, it's okay. They're literally closing it out now.